doing a headstand or handstand against the wall, as inversions like this have been shown to have a reset effect on your emotional state, or splash some cold water on your face, as cold water exposure and the diving reflex also has that emotional reset function.
That's just not a viable plan. Even engage in that thinking at all, you end up in a state of helplessness and feelings of deprivation. What are we? We're fleshy beings with one perspective.
Run through the acronym HALT the BS, which stands for hungry, angry, lonely, tired, bored, or stressed.
So hungry, angry, lonely, tired. You know, the thing is that in itself is a setup for deprivation thinking. It's funny how people just keep coming up with all these like weird extreme things, you know? Like what's next for this distraction stuff?
Hello and welcome to the Help Is Here podcast, brought to you by the Beyond Compulsion Academy. Today we're going to be analysing, reviewing and critiquing some advice by another very popular YouTuber in the porn addiction recovery space. This one was recommended to us by an existing client who'd watched this YouTuber's videos and had at one point believed in a lot of the stuff that was being talked about. Eventually, he realised that this stuff wasn't the right approach. He came to us, he got the right method, and now he's good. He knows how to deal with compulsive desires, and he no longer worries about pornography. So we're going to play a few clips here, and we'll actually be analysing and critiquing some of the things said, so hopefully people can get a bit clearer on some of the information online and why maybe things haven't been working for you so far. So let's play this first video. This one's just kind of funny because this guy actually talks about assuming you're wrong, and if he does ever watch this video, I would love for him to really go all in on this bit of advice and actually start to change his own perspective on things with some of our information.
Assume you don't know the full picture about anything. We are just solo, fleshy, fallible humans with our own singular perspectives and experiences that don't encompass all of reality. Keep your mind open to information and opinions that's at odds with what you think you know, that makes you uncomfortable, that clashes with your own perspective of the world and of reality.
Singular perspective, huh? Well, it's all helplessness, you know? Just we're flesh. What are we? We're fleshy beings with one perspective. Well, yeah, it's if you keep looking at the same shit over and over again, you know, it's, yeah. I would like to hear more about what his approach is. I mean, because that didn't really tell me very much. What did that tell you, that little clip right there?
For me, that little clip is just something that I thought in his video was actually really good, to be straight. I think that was the best bit about his whole video, was more like, okay, you may be wrong about things and keep on seeking like critical information. Like it's good to search for something which maybe challenges your own perspective and be comfortable with the fact that you may have been wrong up until a certain point. So I quite like that little bit in particular. That's why I wanted to include it. The next parts though, a bit where I was like, not so sure about that.
Yeah, I got stuck on the we're just fallible, fleshy, you know, whatever. It just sounded like helplessness to me. But if he's saying that you want to challenge your perspective, your singular perspective, then yeah, I get that. That's great.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, should we get into like a bit more of his like actual
please. I'd love to hear more.
You feel bad and in need of escapism. Run through the acronym HALT the BS, which stands for hungry, angry, lonely, tired, bored, or stressed. And if you're feeling any of those things, try to address it directly in a healthy way, and you'll probably find that urge is gone.
So hungry, angry, lonely, tired. You know, the thing is that in itself is a setup for deprivation thinking. Okay. If you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, now you're going to identify this feeling, right? And so let's say you're angry. Now you want to go use porn, right? So you tell yourself, okay, well, it's not appropriate to use porn because I'm angry, right? So therefore I can't use porn. And now you're going to be more obsessed with using the porn, right? You're probably going to get even more angry. And it's like looking for those emotions as a reason, you know, to engage in the compulsive behavior. It's just the wrong track. And where I was introduced to HALT was from Overeaters Anonymous, right? They use that hungry, angry, lonely, tired, where it just worked completely against people because eating for emotional reasons was like a big no-no. You don't do that. You identify it. But the thing is if you even engage in that thinking at all, you end up in a state of helplessness and feelings of deprivation because, oh my God, I'm not hungry. I can't eat now. It's like, it's just, I mean, he says address it. So maybe he's going to tell us how that works. I mean, I just saw him sitting there eating a plate of pasta.
I'll play this next clip. It says, this is
sorry. No, I'm not sorry.
There's like a little clip where he has like something about like planning for urges, but
okay.
To be honest with you, I put this video together like a week or two ago, so I can't really remember exactly what it was. But let's play this next clip and see what he says.
Have a simple plan for how you're going to respond when the urge to PMO strikes. If you have no idea what you're going to do in that moment, when 90% of your brain is just yelling out for satisfaction, that remaining 10% is very unlikely to be able to decide on a course of action, alternative to using, and take action. But if you have a simple plan that you've mapped out and practiced beforehand, you're much more likely to actually do that thing that will help. It can be something as simple as doing a headstand or handstand against the wall, as inversions like this have been shown to have a reset effect on your emotional state, or splash some cold water on your face, as cold water exposure and the diving reflex also has that emotional reset function.
Did you just chop a tree or throw a frisbee? I couldn't tell.
Hey, now we're gonna, a frisbee.
Yeah. What are we going to stand on our heads? I mean, our handstand. I'd love to see some of the, 300-pound people I've worked with standing on their hands. That'd be really interesting, but it's just like, it's like the other person that was talking about putting your hands in cold water. Now just splash it on your face. And that's just not a viable plan for dealing with compulsive desire. So what about when you get into a peak of withdrawal, when the compulsive desire just persists and persists and persists, and you're standing on your hands, that just not a viable solution. But it's like reset. What do you say? It's going to reset your emotions or whatever. It's about like you're doing it because of the emotions. It just keeps getting back to the same, barking up the wrong tree. It's not because of the emotions. If you have an existing addictive behavior, then yeah, if you have an emotional situation, it may trigger that, to fire, but it's going to fire whether you have the emotional, highly charged emotional situation or not, so, but yeah, it's funny how people just keep coming up with all these like weird extreme things, like what's next for this distraction stuff, or trying not to think about it, standing on your hands. Okay. Can you stand? You could probably stand on your hand. I can't stand on my hands. That's not happening.
I can't do it. I know.
Yeah.
I can't do a handstand or handstands. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can do it up against the wall, I guess, but man, I would collapse. We'd have to call the ambulance if I'm standing on my hands. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in a cafe about a year or two ago with a friend who, he's like a friend of my uncle, but he's kind of part of my same group, like going to football matches, and was in this cafe. And I just happened to see him on my lunch break when I used to work in tech. And we went into this cafe together and had lunch. It was like super spontaneous. And he was like really into doing like headstands and stuff. And he was like trying to convince me he could do one. And because he's like, I don't know, 60 something, right? And I was pretty impressed. I was like, okay, well, that sounds good. Like, cool. That's great that you could do one. And he was telling me all about it and the benefits and everything. Yeah. And then just in the cafe, just in the middle of the day, he just goes and does a headstand in the cafe. And I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? Like, it was so weird, but also kind of funny. And I loved it because I think he'd be the first person to admit that he's quite comfortable being a little bit different and out there. He's just got those kind of vibes. So he just does a headstand like in this cafe. And I'm like, what's going on, right? But yeah, I mean, doing a headstand, it's not exactly a normal, particularly common thing to be doing. So to try and use headstands for porn addiction recovery is pretty insane, to be straight, especially when you know what we know, which is that ultimately people's choices are they're like a manifestation of what's going on in the mind. And so it's our mind that pulls the levers and controls the body and takes action and decides what you do with your choices. And so to do a headstand or put your head in cold water to try and make your choice, it just makes no sense at all. And you would never do this for any other real decision in your life. When you have compulsive desires, you've got a choice to make in that moment. You have a very critical choice to make. You wouldn't think in business, oh, I've got this really tough decision right now. I know what I'll do. I'll do a headstand and that will help me make this decision. Like, you're going to get the education and learn what to do.
My head in ice water.
rational choice. Yeah,
Well,
it's just so crazy.
yeah, the thing is that it's really in alignment where in the state of the world, everything is just like extreme, 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 extreme. So it's kind of funny. It's kind of entertaining, although we're not supposed to be entertained according to that last guy, no entertainment. But, it's just interesting to see what are they going to come up with next, to be like so extreme to whatever it is that I guess deal with porn addiction is what they're trying to do, or any other addiction, just as extreme as it can be. It makes me curious what they're going to come up with next. So, but it's all bullshit. So, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we have more clips? He's funny.
No, that's all I put together actually.
Oh, okay.
Mary.
Yeah.
I guess we could talk about HALT a little bit more. Hungry, alone, lonely, tired. Is that it?
Yeah, we're supposed to go like this: HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. But that's only maybe HALT. I don't know. But he added a couple extras: bored and something else.
Stress. I think it was bored and stress.
Of course, right? Stress, of course.
BS,
right. So, you're stressed. You can't eat if you're stressed. Can't act out in your. The thing is like, if they're saying that you can't do it because of those things, you identify those things. What are they saying? You're supposed to go find a way to deal with your loneliness, probably, right? Go out and be social or whatever. Go call a friend, walk, whatever. I don't understand where that HALT thing is going to get you, other than feeling deprived. Like, oh my God, I can't do it because this is about an emotion. This is about loneliness. This is about boredom. This is about stress. So therefore I can't do the thing that I want to do, and then here come all the feelings of deprivation. Now, not only are you feeling stressed and lonely and bored, now you're feeling like, really frustrated, and all the self-doubt and all the hopelessness, and oh my God, now you're just going to do it to prove you can, So.
What do you mean by that for the listeners? Like, what do you mean? I can't do it because I'm bored. I can't do it because I'm lonely. I can't do it because I'm tired.
Because they want you to identify the emotion, right? So if you're bored, that would mean, okay, well, this is about boredom. This is not about my compulsive desire to use porn. This is about me being bored. So therefore, I can't just go use porn because I've identified this emotion as boredom. So now I got to go try to deal with my boredom. Right? So I can't do the porn because it's not about me wanting to do porn, which it actually is. You're just using boredom as a reason. This is some of the really core concepts that people need to learn in order to sort out a porn addiction in these neural pathways. Ones that don't lead you directly back to using porn because of the feelings of deprivation. Did that clarify at all, or not so much, or what?
Yeah, so I think to kind of explain it in different words is
you do
when you're in the addiction, people feel like they can't engage in the behavior they want to engage in, and so they rationalize the behavior with excuses and look to their emotions as the justification a lot of the time. So, I watched porn because I was bored, I watched porn because I was tired, I watched porn because I was lonely, etc.
Yeah.
But that's all founded on the idea that you're unable to engage in the behavior, because behaviors which you feel freely able to engage in, you don't come up with the rationalizations because you just know, okay, I can engage in it. So I guess that's like the core premise. And then what you're doing is you're obviously, instead of actually dealing with the compulsive desire, you're seeing the symptoms of the compulsive desire, which perhaps could be like the stress, the discomfort that's really going on in that moment. You look into that to solve that.
Well, and other thing completely overlooked with addiction treatment is the unanswerable questions. And if you think about, okay, am I stressed? Am I bored? Am I lonely? I don't know about you, but I feel like feelings like that are kind of fleeting, and they're kind of like muddled, and you can spend a lot of time trying to figure out, like, what exactly am I feeling right now? And so here you are, when it's really probably just your compulsion, wanting to engage in the compulsive behavior. But now I got to figure out, am I feeling sad? Am I feeling lonely? Am I feeling stressed? Now here you are trying to figure out what you're feeling, and you missed a golden opportunity to go, oh, I'm wanting to engage in my compulsive behavior right now, and then dealing with that and making a choice in the moment to actually create change in those pathways so that you can get free of the behavior, you know. But now we're going to, and I think that a lot of therapy does the same thing, you know. It's all about identifying the emotions, you know. It's not, it doesn't really get you where you want to be. And man, you could spend a lot of time trying to nail down emotions. I mean, I've tried to do it with myself, you know, what am I feeling right now? It's like, that's not an easy thing to do, you know. It's like sometimes trying to figure out what you're feeling isn't as helpful as just feeling it, you know. Just let the feeling happen, and feelings pass, you know, and you process them through, but trying to like nail them. What is this? And they're doing this, they're using this as a tool, you know, figure out what you're feeling and then deal with that, because that's what's driving this desire when it's not what's driving the desire, you know. The desire drives itself, you know. Yeah. Until you change it.
No, I guess to any listeners, like if you're not quite understanding what we're getting at here, I do want to just say like there is a lot more to all of this, and it is taught within phase 2 of the Beyond Compulsion Academy, right? So what we're saying here is probably quite a simplified version. Don't worry too much if you're not understanding everything. That's totally okay, because there is like a sequence to the training, and you know, things do tend to make sense in a certain order, right? But yeah, I think when you really break it down, like a lot of this advice online for porn addiction recovery just comes down to a misdiagnosis of the problem. So people completely misunderstanding how compulsive desires work and the tactics of the addictive part of the mind, and then looking at symptoms like the boredom, the stress, the tiredness, the hunger, or whatever, you know, BS it is, and thinking, oh, okay, well, that's the problem, rather than seeing that, oh, that's a symptom of the real problem, which is the inability to deal with the compulsive desires, and then obviously acting out in these compulsive ways. Exactly.
And you can spend, you know, the next 10 years trying to figure out your emotions, you know, and you're probably going to stay stuck in the porn addiction unless you get that sorted in a proper way. Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's wrap it up here then. Cheers, Mary. Thanks for coming on and sharing some of your expertise for everyone. Thank you for listening. Hopefully this is useful. Feel free to click below to get into more information on the Beyond Compulsion Academy, how we work, maybe look into things there. Cheers for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Yeah.